The man who doesn't really like introductions, but I would really love to use at least 5-6 lines in his introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, well known worldwide for his research work in electrical engineering. Obtained ME Power Systems in 1968 and PhD from Indian Institute of Science in 1973. He worked as chairman in Department of Electrical Engineering, divisional chairman of Electrical Sciences, and CEO of Society for Innovation and Development. He is also a member of various committees formed by the Government of India. Presently, he is working as the Vice Chancellor of VTU. Ladies and gentlemen, he is currently overlooking 140 colleges in Karnataka. We are proud, we are pleased that he is here with us. Would you please put your hands together for Dr. H.P. Khincha.
Good morning to all of you. Shri Chenraj ji, Shri Atul Kumar ji Shah, all the family members of the Suranas, all guests who have come here on the launch of this Jain Youth Leadership Forum, and all the youngsters. It was mentioned that 12/9 and 13/9 will go into as the very memorable days in this history of a Jain Youth Leadership Forum. And I think it will go definitely because it is coming after 11/9. And coming after 11/9, trying to do something positive for the world is something always good. So 12/9 and 13/9 will always be remembered. I should admit, before I speak something, on two things. This is the typical American way of speaking, trying to get yourself covered with small prints and trying to get yourself covered against legal status and things like that. So two disclaimer statements, as it may be called, but I'm claiming those statements for myself. One is that neither do I have the charm of the speaker here, nor do I have the modulation of voice, nor do I have the one line going on for 4 or 5 different ways of doing things. And I don't have all these characteristics to speak to you. That is one disclaimer. Second is that I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. Engineering is a very non-glamorous profession. It's a very nerd profession. It's a workman-like type profession. Doesn't have TV stars, doesn't have film stars as engineers. You have doctors, architects, lawyers as TV star shows, but no engineers. So they're very sort of nerd persons, very work to like that person. And therefore this talk will be only to that sense, work to that. And the third disclaimer, I always feel a sense of fear in myself when I talk to young persons, wherever I go. Talking to young persons nowadays is the most difficult job to do. We have crossed our age of this youngness, and it's always true that young people know much more than what we know about things. It's a fact of life. I don't think we can get away from that. Young people have much more exposure, much more multimedia exposure, much more exposure to new things that happen in the world, and therefore you have to be fearful talking to young people. And it is also true that the inquisitiveness and creativity and innovation of young people is always much more than what we young old people have. So you will take my talk of 15-20 minutes with these disclaimer statements always in front of you. Having said this, I got caught into this talk actually. And then once you, in your moment of weakness, accept to speak on occasions like this and say yes, and then afterwards the worry starts. What to speak, what to say. to a group of very bright young individuals. What do we say? What do we talk? What subject do I talk? And in this thinking process, I got options of two talks, option of two topics to speak. One topic which came to my mind that I could speak was on what I call as the new age entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurship in the new age, and how is different from the entrepreneurship of old age. And probably talk to you about the distinct relationships or distinctions between the mature businesses and the new businesses, between the new businesses and the old businesses, and between the way these new and mature businesses differ in their characteristics and how we should adapt ourselves to the new age entrepreneurship. But then I was told that Jenraji is going to speak on entrepreneurship. So I said I should get away from this subject because then I will not be able to match his talk. So I got away from that talk and I said the second subject of my talk. And then the word leadership struck me in this Jain Youth Leadership Forum. So let me say that I will dwell for about 10-15 minutes on leadership qualities. Now, how do we start the talk on leadership qualities? I saw the series of lectures that you have for today and tomorrow take you through leadership, take you something through the Jainism, and take you on to ethics of life and things like that for these 2 days. And let me try to talk about some of these aspects, some characteristics of these aspects. We can talk a lot about the basic principles, lot to talk about value systems, lot to talk about ethical practices. All of us know and talk about this. We talk a lot about electrons. We talk a lot about the protons, the neutrons. And we talk about the energy levels of protons. We talk about the electrical energies which flow through electrons as a part of the electron system's flow. But once, if you imagine, if the electron was to turn back and ask you a question, who are you? Ask you a question, who are you? What are you? Can you, and what answer you will give to this electron at that point of time? Who are you and what are you? It's one of the most profound questions anybody can ask for. Who are you? Why am I here? The how to why transformation of questions, and how do I transform this how to why? Think about this question, which is the riddle of riddles in my sense of thinking. The most difficult question to answer in this world. Who am I? And how do you answer this question of who am I? We try to see the history of answering of this question. We try to answer this question in, let's say, for example, the philosophical sense of things. I try to answer this in a philosophical sense of answering the question, who am I? And how do I answer in sense of philosophy? Many of the great seers, many of the great people have tried and answered this question for us, who am I? Whether I call it Mahavira who has answered, whether I call it the Christ, or whether I call any other philosophical, they have tried to answer this question of who am I? This is one way of trying to answer the question, who am I? Question in a scientific way. As a scientist, we try to answer this question in terms of physics, where we talk about the Big Bang theories, we talk about the dark energies, we talk about the antimatter versus matter, and we talk about the time frame of 10 to the power of minus 57 seconds after the bang and what happens.